Imagine for a moment two people, Laura and Pedro. They both grew up in the same middle-class neighborhood, went to the same schools and graduated from university in the same year. However, 10 years later, their lives have taken very different directions. Laura lives in a comfortable house, has a thriving business, and travels the world. Pedro, on the other hand, still struggles to pay his bills, lives in a small rented apartment, and feels trapped in an endless cycle of debt. What made them follow such different paths? The answer lies in their way of thinking. According to recent research by Harvard University, 85% of our financial success is influenced by our mindset and social skills, while only 15% depends on technical knowledge. This means that the way we see the world has a greater impact on our finances than any specific degree or skill. In this video, we'll explore the 15 main differences between a wealth mindset and a scarcity mindset. What's more, we'll give you practical tools to transform the way you think. Ready to get started? Let's go. Attitude towards learning and personal development. Poor mentality. For many who have this mentality, learning ends with school or college. Pedro, our example, believes that he has done his bit by graduating and now just wants to work and earn his salary. He sees continuous learning as something boring that takes time away from his leisure time. A study by the US Bureau of Labor Statistics revealed that 33% of low-income adults don't read a single book all year. This resistance to learning more greatly limits the chances of growth and financial improvement. Wealthy mindset. On the other hand, those with a wealthy mindset see learning as an investment in themselves. Laura, for example, sets aside an hour a day to read about business, finance, or personal development. She attends seminars and online courses to keep up to date. Warren Buffett, one of the world's most successful investors, attributes much of his success to his reading habit. He is known for spending around 80% of his day reading and thinking. As he says, knowledge grows like compound interest. Practical action: start your own financial learning plan, choose a book on finance or personal development, and commit to reading 20 pages a day. In 2 weeks, you'll have finished a book. Also, subscribe to financial podcasts and listen to them while commuting to work. This new knowledge will be a valuable tool for your future financial success. Perception of money and its role. Poor mentality. For many who think this way, money is just a means to survive. They see it as something that is hard to come by and that goes away quickly. Pedro, for example, spends all his salary as soon as he receives it on basic necessities and a few small indulgences. His motto is, "Money disappears as quickly as it comes in." This mentality is reflected in alarming statistics. According to the US Federal Reserve, 40% of Americans would not be able to cover a $400 emergency without going into debt. This shows a lack of planning and a short-term view of money. Rich mentality. People with a rich mentality see money as a tool to create more value and opportunities. Laura doesn't just think about spending her money, but how to make it work for her. She knows that money can grow with smart investments. Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, puts it this way: the poor and middle class work for money, while the rich make money work for them. Practical action. Change your view of money. Instead of seeing your next paycheck as just a way to pay the bills, ask yourself, how can I use some of this money to do more in the future? Set aside even a small percentage, between 5 and 10% of your income for investments or to start a side business. Remember, the important thing is not how much you have, but how you use what you have. If you're enjoying this content so far, make sure you're subscribed to our channel. I'm preparing a series of videos that will transform your financial life, and you can't miss them. Attitude towards risk and uncertainty. Poor mentality. People with a poor mentality are generally afraid of taking risks and facing uncertainty. Pedro, for example, prefers to stay in his current job, even if he doesn't like it, because it gives him a sense of security. The idea of starting a business or making a big investment scares him. This fear of risk is borne out by a study by the University of California, which found that people on low incomes are 47% less likely to take financial risks than people on higher incomes. Rich mentality. On the other hand, the rich see risk as necessary to grow and achieve success. Laura understands that every investment has a risk, but also an opportunity. She doesn't fear failure because she sees it as a valuable lesson. Mark Zuckerberg, founder of Facebook, said, "The biggest risk is taking no risk at all. In a world that changes rapidly, the only strategy that guarantees failure is to avoid risk." Practical action. Start familiarizing yourself with calculated risk. Choose a small investment or side project that interests you. Do plenty of research, calculate the possible outcomes, both positive and negative, and take the first step. Remember, it's not about being reckless. It's about being willing to step out of your comfort zone in order to achieve something greater. Focus on solutions versus problems. Poor mentality. Those with a poor mentality tend to focus on problems and difficulties. Pedro, for example, when faced with a financial challenge, often complains and finds excuses. Phrases like, "The economy is bad" and "I'm never lucky" are common in his vocabulary. A study by the University of St. Thomas showed that people who focus on problems are 31% less likely to achieve their financial goals. Rich mentality. Those with a rich mentality, on the other hand, focus on finding solutions. When Laura faces an obstacle, her first question is, "How can I solve it?" She sees problems as opportunities to innovate and grow. Elon Musk, known for taking on big challenges, said, "I believe that ordinary people can choose to be extraordinary." Practical action. The next time you face a financial problem, instead of complaining, take out a piece of paper and write down 5 possible solutions. It doesn't matter if they seem unfeasible at first. This exercise will train your mind to look for opportunities instead of obstacles. Remember, every problem has a solution, and your task is to find it. Savings and investment habits. Poor mentality. People with a poor mentality usually live from paycheck to paycheck, spending everything they earn. Pedro, for example, thinks that saving is impossible since he can barely cover his expenses. When he gets a raise or extra money, he immediately spends it on small luxuries. This mentality is reflected in worrying data. According to Go banking rates, 69% of Americans have less than $1,000 saved. This leaves them vulnerable in emergency situations and unable to take advantage of good investment opportunities. Rich mentality. Those with a rich mentality prioritize saving and investing. Laura, for example, lives below her means and automatically sets aside 20% of her income for savings and investments before spending it on anything else. Warren Buffett says, "Don't save what's left over after spending. Spend what's left over after saving." Practical action. Start with the challenge of saving 1%. This week, put away 1% of your salary. Next week, increase to 2% and keep going until you reach a comfortable amount, ideally 20% or more. Set up automatic transfers from your current account to a savings account on the day you receive your salary. Remember, the habit of saving is more important than the amount, especially in the beginning. Attitude towards time. Poor mentality. Those with a poor mentality often see time as something to be killed or wasted. Pedro, for example, spends several hours a day watching TV or scrolling aimlessly through social media. He sees free time as a chance to relax, but in an unproductive way. A Nielsen study showed that the average American watches more than 4 hours of TV a day, which is equivalent to more than 2 months a year spent in front of a screen. Rich mentality. The rich, on the other hand, see time as their most precious asset. Laura organizes her day so that every hour contributes to her long-term goals. Even in her spare time, she tries to do something productive, such as reading, learning a new skill, or making contacts. As Jim Rohn, entrepreneur and motivational author, said, "Time is more valuable than money. You can make more money, but you can't make more time." Practical action. Do an audit of your time. For a week, write down how you spend every hour of your day. At the end of the week, see how much time you spent on activities that bring you closer to your financial goals and how much time was wasted. Find by at least 2 hours a day that you can use more productively, whether it's learning something new or planning your finances. Remember, time is the most valuable resource you have, so invest it wisely. Networking and relationships. Poor mentality. People with a poor mentality tend to limit themselves to their immediate social circle. Pedro, for example, mainly socializes with work colleagues and childhood friends. He sees networking as fake or intimidating. This limitation in connections can have a big impact. A LinkedIn study showed that 85% of jobs are obtained through networking. By closing themselves off to new connections, people with this mentality end up missing out on many opportunities. Rich mentality. Those with a rich mentality understand the power of connections. Laura is always looking to expand her network, attending professional events, joining groups in the field, and seeking out mentors. She sees each new connection as a possible opportunity or source of learning. As author and entrepreneur Porter Gale said, "Your network is your net worth." Practical action. Challenge yourself to expand your network of contacts. Set out to meet one new person relevant to your financial goals every week. This can be done on LinkedIn, at local events, or even by asking your current contacts to introduce you to someone new. Remember, each new connection can open doors to valuable opportunities. Attitude towards financial education. Poor mentality. Many people with a poor mentality think that financial education is boring or too complicated. Pedro, for example, avoids learning about investments or financial planning because he thinks it's not for him. He is content with the basics he learned at school. This lack of interest has consequences. A FINRA study showed that only 34% of Americans can correctly answer 4 out of 5 basic questions about personal finance. Wealthy mindset. The rich, on the other hand, see financial education as a fundamental investment. Laura regularly devotes time to learning about different forms of investment, tax planning, and economic trends. She knows that the more knowledge she has about money, the better she can make it work for her. Benjamin Franklin summed it up well. Investing in knowledge always yields the best interest. Practical action. Start your financial education journey now. Choose a financial concept you've always wanted to understand, such as compound interest, index funds, or diversification, and spend 30 minutes researching it. Use free online resources such as YouTube videos or podcasts. Make it a weekly habit. Remember, every new concept you learn gives you more control over your financial future. Perspectives on work and income. Poor mentality. Those with a poor mentality tend to see work as a boring obligation and their salary as their only source of income. Pedro, for example, counts down the days to the weekend and sees his job only as a way to pay the bills. This view limits his opportunities for financial growth. A Bankrate study showed that only 27% of Americans have an extra source of income in addition to their main job. Wealthy mindset. People with a wealthy mindset see work as a chance to generate value and are always looking for ways to diversify their sources of income. Laura, for example, as well as excelling in her job, has developed several sources of passive income, such as investments and small side businesses. Tony Robbins, the famous life and financial coach, says, The secret to wealth is not to have just one source of income, but several. Practical action. Identify a skill you have that could generate extra income outside of your main job. It could be something as simple as teaching a language online, creating digital content, or providing consultancy in your field. Dedicate 5 hours a week to developing this additional source of income. Remember, the more sources of income you have, the closer you will be to financial freedom. Attitude towards debt. Poor mentality. Many people with a poor mentality see debt as a way of getting what they want now, without thinking about the long-term consequences. Pedro, for example, regularly uses his credit card for impulse purchases and thinks it's normal to be in debt. This view is all too common. According to the Federal Reserve, the average American household has more than $5,000 in debt, including mortgages, student loans, and credit card debt. Rich mentality. Those with a rich mentality understand the difference between good debts, which generate income or increase in value, and bad debts which lose value. Laura, for example, avoids consumer debt and only uses credit for investments that can bring higher returns than the cost of the debt. David Ramsey, a personal finance expert, sums it up well. Debt is a tool. In the right hands, they can save lives. In the wrong hands, they can destroy them. Practical action. Make a list of all your debts. Categorize them into good, such as mortgages for investment properties, loans for profitable businesses, and bad, such as credit card debts, personal loans. Create a plan to pay off all the bad debts as quickly as possible, starting with those with the highest interest rates. At the same time, look for ways to use credit wisely for future investments. Mentality of abundance versus scarcity. Poor mentality. Those with a poor mentality generally think from a perspective of scarcity. Pedro, for example, believes that for him to win, someone has to lose. He sees opportunities as limited and fears that others will take away what little he has. This view can be paralyzing. A study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology showed that people with a scarcity mentality are 35% less likely to take risks that could improve their financial situation. Rich mentality. Those with a rich mentality act from a vision of abundance. Laura believes that there are opportunities for everyone and that the success of others does not diminish her chances of success. This vision makes her collaborate more, share knowledge, and seek partnerships that benefit everyone involved. Stephen Covey, author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, said, "The abundance mentality comes from a strong sense of personal worth and security. It is the belief that there is enough for everyone." Practical action. Practice gratitude every day. Every morning, write down 3 things you are grateful for in your financial life, even if they are small. This will help you see the abundance that already exists in your life. Also, when you come across an opportunity, ask yourself, how can I make this benefit not only me, but also others? This kind of mindset will open up new doors and partnerships. Attitude towards failure. Poor mentality. Those with a poor mentality see failure as something definitive and shameful. Pedro, for example, avoids taking risks or trying new things because he is afraid of failing. If something doesn't work out, he sees it as proof of his incapacity. Fear of failure is a major barrier to financial growth. A study by the University of Michigan showed that fear of failure is the main reason why 33% of people don't start a business. Rich mentality. The rich, on the other hand, see failure as an opportunity to learn and grow. Laura understands that each failure brings her closer to success. As long as she draws lessons from the experience, she is not afraid to try new things because she knows that each attempt, successful or not, makes her wiser and stronger. Thomas Edison, one of the greatest inventors in history, said, "I have not failed. I've just discovered 10,000 ways that don't work." Practical action. Adopt the rule of failure. Set yourself the goal of failing at least once a month at something related to your finances. It could be asking for a raise, proposing a business idea, or making a small investment. After each failure, write down 3 lessons you've learned. Each failure brings you closer to success, as long as you learn from it. Consumption habits. Poor mentality. Those with a poor mentality tend to be impulsive consumers. Pedro, for example, buys things to feel good in the short term without thinking about the long-term impact. He often buys things he doesn't need with money he doesn't have, just to look better in the eyes of others. This behavior is very common. According to a study by Slick Deals, the average American spends around $5,400 a year on impulse purchases. Wealthy mindset. People with a wealthy mindset are strategic consumers. Laura carefully evaluates each important purchase, thinking about its long-term value and how it aligns with her financial goals. She doesn't get carried away by fads or the desire for status, but only invests in things that she really values or that can increase her wealth. Warren Buffett, known for his simplicity, even with a large fortune, said, "If you buy things you don't need, you'll soon have to sell things you do need." Practical action. Put the 24-hour rule into practice for all non-essential purchases. Before you buy something, wait 24 hours. If, after that time, you still think it's a good purchase, go ahead. This small delay can greatly reduce impulse purchases. Also, before making any major purchase, ask yourself, how will this help me achieve my financial goals in the future? Perception of time in relation to money. Poor mentality. Those with a poor mentality usually take a short-term view of money. Pedro, for example, seeks immediate satisfaction and rarely thinks about how his financial choices today will impact his future in 5, 10, or 20 years. This short-term thinking can have serious consequences. A study by the University of Oregon revealed that people who focus only on the present are 43% less likely to have sufficient savings for retirement. Rich mentality. The rich, on the other hand, think long-term when it comes to money. Laura understands the power of compound interest and how small decisions made today can have a big impact on the future. She is willing to give up some immediate wants in exchange for greater security and financial freedom in the future. Albert Einstein supposedly said, "Compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. Those who understand it, earn it. Those who don't, pay it." Practical action. Try the 10-year exercise. Take a sheet of paper and draw 2 columns. In the first, write down your current financial habits, spending, saving, investing, and where you will be financially in 10 years' time if you maintain these habits. In the second column, think of a small change you could make today, such as saving an extra $100 a month, and see how this would affect your financial situation in 10 years' time. This exercise helps you visualize the long-term impact of your decisions today. Attitude towards financial responsibility. Poor mentality. People with a poor mentality often blame external factors for their financial situation. Pedro, for example, blames the economy, his boss, or even bad luck for his money problems. This mentality makes him feel that he has no control over his own financial life. This lack of personal responsibility is more common than it seems. A study by the National Foundation for Financial Education revealed that 63% of adults attribute their financial problems to factors beyond their control. Rich mentality. The rich, on the other hand, take full responsibility for their financial situation. Laura understands that although there are external factors that can influence her life, it is her decisions and actions that really make a difference to her financial success. This thinking gives her a sense of power and control over the future. Jack Canfield, author of The Success Principles, sums it up as follows. You are responsible for your life. You can't keep blaming other people for your situation. It's amazing to realize that you have the power to solve your own problems. Practical action. Do a financial responsibility audit. For a week, every time you face a challenge or make a financial decision, ask yourself, what role did I play in creating this situation, and what can I do to improve it? Write down your answers in a diary. At the end of the week, review your notes and look for patterns. This exercise will help you get out of the victim mentality and into the mindset of being in control of your financial life. The most important lesson is that mindset is not something fixed. It can be changed and improved with constant effort and practice. Remember, change doesn't happen overnight. It's a process that takes time and requires patience. But every small step you take towards a wealth mindset will bring you closer to the financial freedom you desire. Final practical action. Start now. Choose one or two of the practical actions mentioned and commit to putting them into practice in your daily life. Over time, you'll see how your view of money, success, and your own potential will begin to change. As Henry Ford said, whether you believe you can or believe you can't, either way, you're right. So choose to believe that you can. Adopt the wealth mentality. Your financial future depends on it. If you've made it this far in the video, comment, "I stayed until the end." That way, I'll know you're on the right track to becoming a millionaire soon. And now, an incredible video I've prepared especially for you is appearing on your screen. I'm sure it will add a lot of value to your life, so click on it and go watch it right now. See you soon.